I'm talking to you about the article that I've written for the Global Goals Yearbook 2019 publication. It's about one of the most important institutions in our lives. It's an institution that clothes, feeds and houses us, that employs us and invests our savings. It's the source of economic prosperity and the growth of nations around the world. But at the same time, it's been a cause of growing inequality, environmental degradation and mistrust. And the problem is going to get worse before it gets better, because while technology offers tremendous opportunities for enhancing human well-being, it also poses serious risks. And as technology accelerates, business innovation leaves regulation further and further behind. Artificial intelligence illustrates that. At the moment, we think about artificial intelligence in terms of its impact on the future of work. Important though that is, actually its major impact is not going to be so much on manual labour as on mental labour, because not only will it substitute for humans in the workplace, it will also substitute in due course for human decision-taking as machine learning accelerates. But there's been an increasing realization of the importance of one particular element in relation to this, and that is the notion of corporate purpose. In January 2019, Larry Fink, the CEO and president of the largest investment management business in the world, BlackRock, said, "Every business needs a purpose, not a strapline or a marketing campaign, but a statement of its fundamental reason for being, what it does on a daily basis. Purpose," he said, "is not the sole pursuit of profits, but the animating force for achieving them." And in August 2019, the Business Roundtable said that corporate purpose was no longer about shareholder primacy, but instead about delivering value for customers, investing in employees, dealing fairly with suppliers, caring for communities, sustaining the environment, and creating long-term value for shareholders. Now, all of this demonstrates the significance and the importance of the reason why business exists, what it's there to do, what it aspires to become, namely its corporate purpose. And everything follows from that in terms of business practice, business policy, and business education. The purpose of business is not to produce profits. The purpose of business is to produce profitable solutions to the problems of people and planet. And in the process it produces profits, but profits are not per se the purpose of business. Everyone who runs successful businesses knows that to be the case, and they don't profit from producing problems for people or planet. Instead, what they do is they commit to a corporate purpose, and they commit to those who help to create the corporate purpose. And those people in turn help to create that corporate purpose, and that gives rise to reciprocal relations of trust and mutual benefits, both for the parties to the firm and for the firm itself. It creates more loyal customers, more engaged employees, more reliable suppliers, more supportive shareholders and societies. And that, in turn, gives rise to greater revenues, lower costs and more profits. What underpins this is the trustworthiness of business to uphold those corporate purposes. And behind that lies the corporate values and culture, values of honesty and integrity and cultures of commitment to those corporate purposes. The British Academy is the UK's National Academy of the Humanities and Social Sciences, and in 2018 it launched a major study into the future of the corporation in which they looked at how business needs to evolve over the coming decades to be able to address the economic, social and environmental challenges it faces and to take advantage of technological opportunities for furthering the interests of humanity. It brought together leading academics from the social sciences and humanities across the world and brought them together with business leaders from many different sectors and types of companies. On the basis of that, it put forward a set of recommendations as to how one can create businesses with real purposes and the trustworthiness and values and cultures to uphold them. And what it identified was 4 sets of policies to achieve it. First of all, around law and regulation, to align the fiduciary responsibilities of directors to promoting their corporate purposes, and in terms of regulation, to ensure that there's an alignment between corporate purposes and the public interest in relation to companies that perform particularly important public functions, such as utilities, public infrastructure companies, and public service companies. The second set of policies revolved around ownership and governance. Ownership is not just about the rights of shareholders to derive profits from companies, but also their responsibilities to determine and uphold their corporate purposes. And corporate governance is not simply about aligning management interests with those of their shareholders, as is conventionally regarded as being the case, but aligning management interests with the delivery of corporate purposes and making them accountable to the various parties affected by the firm in the process. The third set of policies relate to the measurement and performance of companies. Measurement should reflect not just the investment of companies in material capital, such as buildings, plant and machinery, but also in its human assets, its social assets and its natural assets. And we should measure performance in terms of profits that reflect the success of companies in delivering on their corporate purposes. And the final set of policies relate to finance and investment. The provision of finance that really promotes corporate purposes by building relations between the providers of finance and the users of finance in the supply of long-term risk capital for companies. And not just partnerships with the capital markets, but also with other parts of an economy, in particular the public sector, in the delivery in particular of long-term, large-scale investments in infrastructure. Those 4 sets of policies around law and regulation, ownership and governance, measurement and performance, finance and investment offer the possibility of creating businesses that have real purposes associated with them, the trustworthiness, cultures and values for upholding them. The importance of this is in terms of re-establishing trust in business, because trust is one of the most important institutions in our lives. The most successful corporations in the world are indeed trusted corporations, and the competitiveness of nations depends on the trustworthiness of its corporations, for the prosperity of the many, not just the few, of the future as well as the present.